Hello, hello, Adrian Gomez. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us today. Let's go ahead and get started with the basics. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Adrian Gomez. I'm originally from Dumas, Texas, small town in the out there in the Texas Panhandle. Came out to California 2 days after I graduated high school. Attended Marine Corps boot camp. Did 20 years. Retired, or was fortunate enough to retire in 2016, and just been out here in Southern California. I guess living the life, as they say.
Living the California life. Okay, no, I definitely I understand that. So then, then being in California, the cannabis scene, well, cannabis has been around for thousands of years being used as plant medicine, as you may know, for someone who partakes in using cannabis as plant medicine. But I always love to start with asking people as to what their relationship is with cannabis. When did you first start hearing about cannabis, weed, the many names that marijuana has? When did you first cross paths with it? As a kid in high school, in college? Everybody's got a story. So please, if you feel like sharing a little tidbit with us, I appreciate that.
So I don't. I guess really, it's once I retired. I didn't. I grew up and it wasn't that big. I guess per se, or at least I wasn't around it. Being that small hometown, but the first time I'd really, I guess, experienced it was going to be December of 2016. So about 5 6 months.
I do want to go back a little bit, if it's okay, and wanted to hear a little bit more about your military, your time in the military. What was your rank? Being in the U.S. Marine Corps, how many tours did you serve? And tell a little bit more about that time in your life. I would like to hear a little bit more if you can.
Yeah, so I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. Um, I got out, retired, 2016. Spent 20 years as a motor transportation operations chief.
And what
But
is that?
so basically, we run resupplies. We'll run anything from fuel, water, food, um, troops. We'll move anything via flatbed, via tractor trailer. Uh, so we did a lot of convoys. Um, I was in Iraq, 2006. Went back in 2008, and then went to Afghanistan in 2010, and then again in 2012.
So is that a total of two tours?
Total of four.
So each one of those is, oh wow,
Each
so
one,
four
yeah, each
tours.
individual. Ranging from a couple months all the way up to 10-month deployments. So, um, yeah, deployed. It was a vicious cycle. It was deploy, come home, rest, refit, maybe get a school in, some other training, and then you start doing a workup again. Do 6 to 8 more workup, and then you're out the door again for another 6 7 months.
Wow. Okay. So running supplies back and forth, or anything, running it from point A to point B, that definitely sounds dangerous, or especially if you're in hostile territory. Any moments? I mean, I'm sure you can give a lot of examples, but if you say how many times in those types of settings were you in danger, or were you in danger all the time, just because of the nature of being in hostile territory and getting supplies from point A to point B? Were there moments of like piracy and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was always, there was always a threat, day in and day out. It didn't matter where you went, and it was, on the roads, or you know, threats could come in the form of some of the people that you work with, and we've seen and heard those stories. But yeah, it was 24/7. It was nonstop. Um, a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Vigilant. We always use the word be vigilant, which vigilant turns into hypervigilant, and it's yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. When you change for certain situations, certain instances, but that doesn't necessarily happen the way that you want it to all the time. And along with that comes a lot of stress, a lot of things that aren't normal. Um, I guess I'd say to all of us back home, but stuff that over there that just becomes normal, but is just way out of left field. So it's definitely it was an adjustment coming back. Um, go in there. The adjustment's easy, I guess you'd say. Within a day or two, you just adapt. But it was the coming back, and when you come back, excuse me, coming back, you didn't come back same. There's a lot of things that are, I'd say, overlooked, or that I should say that I I guess I thought was normal. You do. You think it's normal, but in looking back on it after being able to process everything, it's not. It's not normal. You're not normal. The way you think's not normal. The way you go about your daily activities aren't normal, and it's something that just lives with you. Something that just lives with you. Excuse me. And then just being able to find and use cannabis to manage it doesn't cure it, but being able to manage it helps. It helps a ton.
No, absolutely. I would like to ask you if you're able to share, and for the people who are watching, I'm sure that they would be interested to know. So, when you got back home after, I would say, so your fourth tour, and touching upon what you just said, when did you notice that something wasn't quite right? Like, if you could put to words the symptoms and the feelings that you were experiencing, how would you put them in words if you could?
It's the best way to explain it. It's not it's not normal to only sleep for a couple hours at a time. It's not normal to only sleep, in 15, 30-minute increments, and you're getting up, you know, checking to see if your doors are locked, checking to see if your windows are locked. Um, just checking to make sure that the lights are on outside, and it's you couple that with a lot of at the time for myself, a lot of drinking. So, and I was doing it to sleep, but you don't sleep, you know. Um, so it's just you operate pretty much operate in the way that you'd operate if I was in country. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. Like, you don't, the first couple of times, probably until the third time, don't know how to balance it or turn it off per se. So, and it's an uneasy feeling, constantly fidgeting, moving around, can't sit still. I still do it to this day. Um, but it's just, I don't know. It's combination of being nauseous, I guess. There's a lot of being nauseous, um, and on the edge. That's the easiest way to explain it. Short fused, short fused as well. So it's, yeah.
So it sounds like it's a combination of not only mental health, but also physical symptoms that
Oh
you
yeah.
were experiencing.
Yeah, there's a lot of physical symptoms. More so, more so on the mental side, though. It's the body will adapt. Body adapts. If you don't have food for long, extended periods of times, maybe even water. But the mind, that was the tough part. Because there's no period. There wasn't any time where you can just kind of um, kick back and relax in certain areas. Every once in a blue moon, maybe, but no, it didn't count. It did the time that you needed to, I guess, get right or get straight. It was never enough.
I hear that. During this time period, where was there someone who you were talking to about this? Was there somewhere you could go to share these feelings with?
I didn't really. You talk to my buddies at work, you guys that you work with, and you're all just kind of dealing with the same thing. But I didn't. I don't ever remember reaching out to anybody. I don't ever remember reaching out to a brother, a cousin, my dad. I'd always, I'd play it off. like I'm fine, like nothing's wrong with me, I'm okay. I'm doing good, which in reality I wasn't. So I didn't really talk to anybody probably until after the last deployment, which by that point I don't want to say it was too late, but there was so much that I was already done, already been through, and already dealt with. A lot of issues that I'd caused with the family. But looking back on it, something that I wish I had done. That wish I would have talked to somebody and let them know I was going through it. I was just under the assumption that everybody's dealing with it, and you show up to work the next day, everybody's fine. Hey, all right, you're okay, no big deal.
And how about your wife? I know you mentioned you have a lovely wife. You have a couple kids. During this time period, were there moments where you feel like you could confide in her, or was it one of those things where you didn't feel like she would understand what you were experiencing? So again, you also kept it to yourself.
Yeah, I didn't. It pretty much took um, her telling me that if I didn't go get help, that she was leaving. It got to that point. So I was, again, I don't want to say oblivious to it, but again, I thought I was fine. I didn't think that anything was wrong, but it got to that point. Um, it got to that point, and then at that point in time, I'll never forget it. Um, when she told me, because that day I hopped in my vehicle and drove straight to work. Um, Walked into medical and just let them know that I needed help, and then 2012, December 2012 is when I um, started therapy, started getting help that I should have reached out, should have gotten um, long time ago at that time, pretty much.
So just to clarify, so 2012 was when you were officially diagnosed with PTSD?
No, I didn't. I didn't get the diagnosis until 2016 after I retired. They didn't give me. Um, they didn't put it in black and white. We did a lot. I did a lot of a lot of sessions, a lot of therapy sessions. Um, but towards the end is probably about the time when they started or they decided, okay, because I asked, I was just like, hey, look, I've been getting help for the past 2-3 years, and nobody's told me, hey, you have this, or no, you have that. And that's when my doctor revealed to me, says, you have PTSD, you have it, and it's something that you're gonna have to deal with, and you're gonna have to work with once you retire. So after retiring, and then you go through the VA process, your appointments and so forth, and then I want to say end of August, maybe the 1st of September of 2016. That was when I was, I guess, if you want to say, officially diagnosed with PTSD.
Wow. And, I do want to give a quick refresher for those who are watching. According to the Mayo Clinic, PTSD, or post traumatic stress disorder, it's a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, either experience it or witnessing it. And according to the National Center for PTSD, about 7 or 8 out of every 100 people, so that's about 7 or 8% of the US population, will have PTSD at some point in their lives. And about 8 million adults have PTSD during a given year. So it's something that's actually fairly common. And, we need to be talking about it more. My next question would be then, once you got that diagnosis for PTSD in 2016, what medications were you initially given? Because it sounds like cannabis was not offered first. And so can you tell us, if you remember, what medications you actually did have, or what form of action plan that they give you? And can you describe what kind of like, were they downers? Did they make you sluggish? Did they make you feel numb? I always like to give a better sense of the before you transition into cannabis use.
There's a lot of us veterans that deal with PTSD. They give you the tramadols and the trazodones, and you get the or the gabapentin. A lot of stuff you wouldn't normally hear of, but the gabapentin, the tramadol, trazodone. Those are the three that I remember off the top of my head. But on top of that, they're going to give you another one for each one to counter the side effects, if applicable, if it applies. And then, of course, what that in turns is, then you get the blue pill, because all those pills together, when they add up, stuff doesn't work, and they give you the blue pill. But it sluggish is one of the feelings. I remember just depressed. Start losing interest in things that you used to want to do. For myself, weight gain. I probably, from the time I retired till the time I started using cannabis regularly, I'd put on probably 25, 30 pounds, 25, 30 pounds. So it's just, on top of that, dealing with, all those meds they give you, and then just dealing with intestinal issues. It was just walking around daily, just feeling crummy, combination of nausea, just uncertain what you wanted to do for that day. But yeah, it wasn't fun.
So it sounds like you were literally walking around with like a little handful of pills that you would have to take um, in order to feel somewhat okay. And then you were drinking. So it was just a combination to try and figure out what the issue is, but really it doesn't sound like it was very helpful. I mean, maybe for the moment, but it doesn't sound like a very comfortable way to live. And so I would say then, if we can kindly touch back again. So you were doing that concoction of medication for how long? And until you were introduced to cannabis, and where were you when that happened? Were you hanging out with your buddy at work, or were you at their house when they were like, "Hey, man, like, have you tried thinking of cannabis?" How did that interaction happen?
So it's probably, let's see. I was doing the medications and the drinking probably for about a good 7 months. At the mid to the end of the 6 month mark, that's when I had a buddy of mine tell me, just, explain to me again the benefits of having a med rec. Let me know ways that it helped him. So got the medical recommendation, and then went to my first dispensary. I mean, they're conveniently located close to these places. So um, yeah, I remember going in and just explaining to him. I was like, "Hey, it's my first time. Um, I've never used it." I said, "So, I've got time. Please explain it to me." And of course, they covered. They had split it up. It concentrates, edibles, and then flour and so forth. And I just told her, she's like, "What are you looking to treat?" And I just told her, I was like, "I want to sleep." So I got a preloaded pen. It was, I remember the brand distinctly, and I remember just taking it home. And prior to all this, I'd talk to my family, talk to my wife, talk to my kids, and just let them know what I was going to do, because last thing I wanted to do is be ducking around the corner, hiding it, or be out in the garage. Somebody asked, "What's that smell? What are you doing?" So I just let them know. So I remember coming home, and I had it in the bag, and I waited for my wife to get home, and I was like, "Hey, here's what I got. Here's what I have." And, she's like, "Well, let's hope it works." And I'll never forget walking out on my front porch, reading the instructions, looking at it. I remember talking to my buddies, like, "Man, it's just like if you've ever, it's just, you smoke it, just hit it, start small." I remember I did 2 hits that night. Walked back upstairs, put it in my medicine cabinet, kind of tried to hide it a little bit, and brushed my teeth, drank some water, and went to bed. And I remember waking up the next morning, and it was light, like it was full on light. And I never sleep past, I'm up before the sun comes up. And I wake up, and my wife's standing over the top of me. And her eyes are about as big as saucers, and she's looking at me. And I just look at her. I wake up and I went to bed in this, I didn't move. So the same position that I went to bed in is the same position that I woke up in. And I look over to my right and she's standing there and I looked at her and she looks down at me and literally she says, "I thought you died." And I asked her, I was like, "Why?" She's like, "You weren't snoring, you didn't move, and you were still in bed when I woke up." So, needless to say, it worked. We just, and it was a learning experience for us at that point. But yeah, that. I guess that was the introduction, if you will. And then from that point forward, it was a learning process.
I'm happy that you mentioned that because, as part of the journey of using cannabis, as you may know, it is a little bit of trial and error to figure out, what dosing is going to be right for you, for your condition, for whatever condition that you're battling, for lack of better words. So, would you say that right now, since you've had some time of trial and error, that you found a good combination of cannabis methods of delivery? And can you kind of talk us through what your day to day regimen looks like in regards to consuming your plant medicine?
Yeah, so I initially started, with the vape pen, and quickly moved to cannabis, over to flower.
Mm.
Um, and I stayed with flower. Used an app, several apps just to figure out what strain was going to work best for me. What strain is going to treat or help me treat the things that I need to treat so that I can function on a daily basis. So, um, it was flour. Then it went to into concentrates, and then quickly learn, microdosing with edibles throughout the day is good, and then also implementing tinctures, RSO. For myself, I mean, it's all I use the word day on, stay on. You know, from the moment I wake up, I start out with the tincture. You know, get things going in the morning, and then quickly to flour, and it's flour throughout the day. And it starts with a hybrid sativa, and then just throughout the day, it graduates more so towards the indica side, so that once it's time to go to bed,
You
some
you
heavy,
can hit that memes.
yeah,
I
heavy,
hear you.
heavy OGs, maybe a little bit of an edible as well to help sleep. But that's my routine. I don't, of course, the vape pens are always convenient. They're discreet. You can, use them where you need to, and there's not too much smell. But I, from the time I started till now, I think I touch pretty much every form that there is throughout the day, just to help manage my ailments, if you will.
Of course, of course. Are there any particular brands that you'd like to say that you stick or you're using right now that seem to be working well for you?
In the morning, that tincture I start out with, I use Pop on Barkley's
The
tincture.
Barclays. Mm-hmm.
For vapes, it's the Cocoon, the Alaska. I really like that one, as well as the Helman Valley guys. They've got a vape out as well that I use throughout the day. Flower, it's just from my local spot, Medcare Farms. Their spot out here this way, probably about 15 minutes from where I live. So they've got really good product as well.
Oh, that's awesome. It's good to hear that you found the combination of the different delivery methods to implement it into your everyday life. And you don't always just have to smoke. You don't always have to eat it. There's different ways. And, it's just part of the natural process of finding what's going to work best for you. My next question would be then, before you were discussing with us, when you were taking all the tramadols and the medications ending in the alls, and you described the symptoms of just sluggishness and just, just kind of, I don't want to say numbing, but it's just, it helped with the symptoms, but how was your quality of life? So now that you've transitioned to cannabis, are you exclusively using cannabis, or did you have to wean yourself off of those? Or are you using a combination of both? And if you're only using cannabis, can you kind of talk about your quality of life now? If you're using that, are you still feeling those symptoms of sluggishness, depression, or is it actually the opposite now?
So the majority of the time, I'll use cannabis. I didn't completely. There's some meds that I got away from, but there's others that I'll still take as needed. I didn't don't completely get off of them, but there are some that I still as needed, and that balance has helped. It's helped out a lot. Um, helped out, just the biggest thing is getting through the day, managing through the day. That's the big thing. So I've been able to find that balance. It's being a young guy. It's you start paying attention to your vitals, your levels, and all that good stuff when you go to the go to the doctor for checkups or blood draws, stuff like that. And that's something that I'll pay attention to. If something doesn't register after labs or whatever the case may be, I'll start looking into. But yeah, it's a combination of the cannabis and then a little bit of meds. But at the same time, as far as I've had to change my lifestyle, my diet, just what I'm putting into my body and so forth. So, and that's helped. It's helped out a lot. And it really started, when I was looking at strains of cannabis. What's in this? What makes me, why does it make me feel this way, or why does it do this, or what compounds are in there that are cause the benefits or whatever the case may be, and transitioning that to, or applying that, I should say, to the way you eat and the way you live. It's helped out a lot.
So, I mean, they're all related to each other, and it kind of sounds like it was a trickle down. Like once you made that transit, you started making that transition to using more cannabis to manage your symptoms. It all kind of followed suit. Then you look great. So would you say you're not really drinking as much anymore, or if all at all? I would say I would like to think. Um, you're eating better. I would say so. It was really just it was a positive thing, pretty much across the board. It sounds like.
Yeah, it was a trickle effect. I started paying more close attention to certain things, and by doing that, I started feeling better. You feel better. Um, Probably, if I had to use a scale on a scale of 1 to 10, at the highest point, I was probably at a probably say 8, maybe a 9, as far as my alcohol intake. Along with um, the meds, and then it went from an 8, 9 probably to about a 2 or 3. I mean, yeah, I have 1 or 2 on a Taco Tuesday, so it's just leave room in there, but it's manageable. It's something that if I wanted to, um, I can have that 1 or 2, or maybe even 3 or 4, for whatever special occasion, families in town or whatever the case may be. But I can stop. I can stop, and I'm fine. Um, Prior, there was no stop. It was, stop when you run out, basically, or stop till you fall asleep. So, definitely gotten better on that aspect for sure.
No, that's really, really great to hear, when people get to experience that kind of recovery, um, peace of mind. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess then, and I'm so thankful for you being as candid as you have been. I'm confident that whoever's watching us today will walk away with a tidbit of knowledge, and we're encouraging people to be able to share this program and spread the news. Conversations like this are important and very well change someone's thinking and their quality of life if they want to pursue cannabis as a possible option. So I would like to close and say, for those of us who are watching who may be on the fence about cannabis use, because remember, we're having to undo like years of propaganda and just the demonization of this as being a drug, when really it's quite the opposite of, not being, it needs to not be Schedule 1. Let's just say that. But what would you say to those people who, about cannabis and why it seriously needs to be considered for PTSD management?
Because it works, you know, it works. It's not a synthetic. There's a lot of um, a lot of products that are out there that are organic. That's something that I look towards. Even toward when you're looking at flower, but it's natural. It works, and there's probably thousands of us, across the U.S. that I can attest to it. Only a few of us are coming out, and, or a handful are coming out and speaking about it. But it just it improves. It's improved the quality of life for myself. It's improved relationships with family members. It's improved um, my mental health. And all of us veterans, because that's my network. That's who I hang out around and deal with. We've all found the benefits of it. We've all seen the changes that we've been able to make in our life, quality of life, and how it's allowed us to just be better people.
And that's what the goal is in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be happy, have peace of mind, just be better people. Well, Adrian, thank you so much for your time today. We definitely, again, thank you for sharing your story, being honest. Um, if anyone wanted to get a hold of you and talk a little bit more about your experience, is there a best way to get in touch with you, or what is your Instagram? Perhaps if they want to connect with you there.
Yeah, the easiest way is probably be Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Red Texas Dirt One. Texas and the dirt are abbreviated, Red Texas Dirt One. But yeah, hit me up. It's I get veterans, I get family members and so forth asking me, hey, what are the steps? What's the process? How'd you get into it, or how can I get into it, or what are some I get this friend who makes this, whatever the case may be. I'm always available on there.
And we definitely appreciate that. And I'm definitely a believer if we have more opportunities to talk like this and to connect with each other. Cannabis, it's getting there. I'm very excited for the progress in the legalization and everything. So I definitely look forward to going along with the journey and getting the word out. So again, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to wish you a lovely rest of the day. If you want to say goodbye to everyone, and you take care. Okay?
You got it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.